Hello everybody and welcome along to America's home for racing. It could be nowhere else than Charlotte Motor Speedway, and this weekend we have the final two events of the Ford Racing Mustang Challenge. One today, early this morning, well just after 10 o'clock actually, sun already up, and it's a big day for the Xfinity racers here in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. I'm John Hindhaugh. Just to my right is Arjuna Kankapati. So one race now and one race tonight under the lights. It will be dark as well. Ford Mustang Challenge Racing brought to you by Ford. Ready, set, Ford. And what a year we have had. Robert Noecker has made this season his own and already mathematically wrapped up the title as we come to this circuit for the first time, the Charlotte ROVAL. So we used quite a lot, almost all of the 1.5 mile oval in fact, but on the infield, 17 corners. It's slightly changed from 2023's layout. It was changed last year and lengthened a tiny bit, so it's 2.32 miles, or just under 2.5 kilometres for the 17 corners. And the chicanes have big tyre bundles on them that you have to stay away. I think they're more for the stock cars than anything else. We've got a great battle going on in the Dark Horse Legends. We'll give you some facts about that in a moment. We're rolling at the moment, so let's get straight to the Ford Racing starting grid. 20 cars, of which effectively it's 10 and 10 for DHL, Dark Horse Legends and Dark Horse. The Dark Horse Legends have the blue number backgrounds, and it's Nick Smither and Stephen Vidya on the 10th row of the grid in 9th and 10th in their category. Drew Naubart for NV Autosport and Paolo Salvatore, now a married man of course for Torre Racing, in 18th and 17th. Joe Dedricks qualifying 6th in DHL. He'd be happy with that for Robert Noecker racing alongside Dan McKeever, also listed as a Dark Horse Legend, but because he's come in at the last races of the season, the organisers and Ford Racing have invoked one of the regulations, 11.74, if you go and look it up, and he's been taken out of DHL and made a VIP driver. If he gets on the podium, he'll still be there, but he's invisible for points, and again, that's all to do with the closeness of the Dark Horse Legends battle. Then in 14th position, it's Tom Tate, who's got Colin Harrison, one of the Dark Horse runners, alongside. That's Competition Motors and Tech Sport. And then we are heading through into the top 10. And we've already gone green. In fact, they were very much quicker than I thought round the lap. It was Robert Noecker and Will Lucas and Sandy Satulo who locked out the top 3 positions. This is turn 7. And this is where we expect to see some of the battles. Arjuna at the front of the field. It's been Robert Noecker's season, and so far it's been Robert Noecker's weekend as well.
He was flying in both practices and both qualifying sessions as well, but this is Will Lucas early in this race, turning the wick up and really putting the pressure on. In the Dark Horse Legends class, I did note that Alex Bashura got past Devin Anderson, put another one of the Dark Horse competitors between him and the rest of his championship contenders. A very important move at the start of this race.
Spin for the Paolo Salvatore Torre Racing blue and white machine. That's down on one of the chicanes, far side of the circuit. He's going to get that back pointing in the right direction fairly quickly. We start with 45 minutes on the clock. The infield has quite a lot of elevation change, and there's some tricky cambers as well, described to us by a number of the drivers. Sam Paley took some time out to speak to us yesterday, as did Alex Bashura, Alfonso Diaz, and many others actually. It's a really friendly product. Let's find out what happened to Paolo. Did he jump or was he pushed? No, he's on the back straight chicane there and just got on the power. And that V8, as well as being very powerful, has a lot of torque. and the traction control is all down to your backside and your right foot. No intervention from electronics here. Well, whilst this has settled down at the moment, let's talk about that Dark Horse Legends battle. Alex Bashura getting 10 points for the pole position here, Arjun, and the number 33 starting in 5th position. And that actually could be crucial because, and we'll take a look at our Ford Racing team update today, which is a little bit different because we are zooming in on that Dark Horse Legends battle. It's very tight indeed in that Dark Horse Legends battle.
Alex Bashura and Zachary Lee entered the weekend tied on points with a further 70 points back to Alfonso Diaz. So very realistically, it was winner takes all across these two races, and Bashura grabbing 10 points for qualifying on class pole position in this race has given himself the advantage, and he has looked almost cut above the rest of his competitors in this particular event so far. Across the whole of the season, he has been out there and fighting with some of the Dark Horse drivers, but in the Dark Horse Legends, he won 5 in a row to open up the season. Came unstuck in the second race at Road America and took a while to re-find his footing, to find that momentum again, but look at him here on the back of Sandy Sotelo. As Will Lucas has lost some ground, it's Marcus Vento that's now in second spot.
We'll keep an eye on our Ford Racing team update throughout this race and update you on how that battle. The numbers to watch for, if you're following along on the timing, are the number 33, Alex Bashura, number 48, Zach Lee from Kentucky McAleer Racing, and Alfonso Diaz in the number 15 Tech Sport car. Those are the cars with the blue numbers that you can see on the last time. And as it stands, stands coming into the race, that's no points for this race. That's how they came in to this race, with just a 10-point difference, and the 10-point difference for Bashura was on him winning the pole position. Now, who was that going wide? Was that Paolo Salvatore there? No. Sotolo's got a problem. He pulled right out of the way of everybody else.
So one thing, John, that we did hear from some of the drivers was that the transition off the banking, especially in that final braking zone, was causing some issues. They were actually getting, even with the ABS on these cars, the surface was so rough, the transition was so bumpy, they were still locking up the tires. And I wonder if that's what happened to Sotelo for a moment, and he just got out of the way, avoided running into the back of Will Lucas in front of him. And now, as a result of that, Alex Bashura, 4th overall, and again, just showcasing the speed that we've seen from him. And for those wondering what Dark Horse Legends is, it's an optional classification, so the driver opts into competing in Dark Horse Legends if A, they are 45 years and older, and B, they are a bronze rated driver and no higher.
You can't go the other way. You could fulfill those criteria. That certainly would be me, and I could say, well, I'm feeling confident I'm going to run with the big dogs up front in Dark Horse. That's okay. As Arjuna says, it is optional. You can't go back from Dark Horse to Dark Horse Legend. If you are an obvious Dark Horse candidate and don't fulfill the criteria that Arjuna was just mentioning, now you have to run with the red plates. Big slide by Alex Bashura coming through one of the tricky chicanes here, and it really is heavy braking here. The guys fine-tuning their racing ABS systems. Bashura. Now, Bashura has Sam Paley right up his tailpipe. Sam getting the grips literally as well as metaphorically with this circuit. Didn't test here and has been out of the championship for a little while. He's getting used to the new tyres that we have, particularly new front tyres that we have for this season. There's a conundrum here, isn't there, for Alex Bashura in that dark olive green car with the orange stripes, because he could let Sam go there. It would not affect his points total and his points haul for the class in which he competes.
Yeah, he won't lose points to Zachary Lee until Zachary Lee catches up to the back of Alex Bashura and makes a pass. And so this is where you get caught in two minds sometimes, because I think Bashura would and most racing drivers would quite like having the buffer, but if you start making a few too many mistakes, sometimes it can be better to let that faster car go through. And, you know, for Sam Paley, he had the huge accident at Road America, and full credit to Robert Noacre Racing for lending him their spare car so he could get back out there and kind of end the weekend with some momentum. But he's a very talented young driver, and I think, you know, running this Paley Motorsports team as well, much like with Robert Noacre, we're seeing a couple of drivers in this championship not just fast behind the wheel, but developing skill sets off the track as well.
Yeah, 6 cars between Bashura and Zachary Lee. That again does not affect the points total between them. It is purely on class positions. So if you are watching the timing and scoring online from Al Kamel and IMSA, or you look at the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, the red number boards are the Dark Horse cars, the blue, and Bashura stands out there as a single blue in a sea of a top 10 that is otherwise red. That's your Dark Horse Legends, and that is what we're looking at here. A reminder that Dan McKeever, who shows up as a blue, is a special blue. He's a VIP blue, invisible for blue points, if you will, so that he can't influence that championship battle in the last racing week end of the year. Into the chicane, and a battle for second position. Marcus Vento in the blue and white car, more blue and white with red and black. Behind him is Will Lucas. Just thought about sticking the nose of that Dark Horse R down the inside. Now up onto the banking, 24 degrees, and then sweeping back down into another tight chicane. And this is as tight as it's been. It's a tiny change from back in 2023. It was 2.28 miles around, and now it's 2.3 miles, or 3.7 kilometres. 7.3 kilometres. So a tiny change to various parts of the circuit, tightening some places up, opening some places out, and certainly the run down into the hairpin at turn 7, that has changed Arjuna. And
I think that's where we're seeing the passing opportunities, wherever they place the heavy braking zone. So that change at turn 7, obviously the back straightaway, the run to turn 10, and I think turn 16, that last chicane, it's been the site of many a famous pass in the NASCAR races they've had here. Likely to see something similar potentially if we continue this close quarters racing. And Marcus Vento right now, he's 7.3 seconds behind Robert Noacre, but that's not to say that Marcus Vento is slow, because if he was slow, Will Lucas would be driving past him right now. It's just another testament to Robert Noacre, who is on course right now for a perfect season, sweeping not just all the race wins if he can win both races this weekend, but grabbing as many bonus points as possible as well. He has just been the man to beat all year long.
Now, we were talking yesterday about how unusual that is in a single manufacturer championship. Everybody with the same equipment this second year, everybody finding their feet last year, beginning now to make more changes to the cars, such as you can. There's not that much you can do with these cars. Very closely related to the Dark Horse street car that you could go to your Ford dealer and put your deposit down on. And by the way, for those of you outside the US, in the UK, yes, they are available in right-hand drive. Have a look on your favourite car finding site, and for the amount of horsepower and the noise that they make, and just the smiles per mile, they are a performance bargain. Change of position there, sliding down the inside. Devin Anderson slipping through there?
No, I think that was Sam Paley.
Sam Paley in the white car, indeed it was, yeah.
Making his move on Alex Bashura, and again, that's not for points, that's just for track position inside of the Dark Horse versus Dark Horse Legends championship fight. Here comes a look to the inside from Will Lucas.
And it ends in contact, Arjuna. There was a certain inevitability about that. I could hear it in your voice as you were winding up to that. And Marcus Vento ends up facing the wrong direction. Race control will be looking at that. We'll set a lap record here, 128.6 for Dark Horse, 129.9 for Legends. Robert Noyaker and Alex Bashura at the moment, we don't have a lap record on this configuration, because even the last time that IMSA raced here back in 2020 in that very wet night race with the GT cars, it was the slightly different configuration. But put it this way, the truck lap record, which was set yesterday by Brent Cruz, was 1:26.666. So we're not a million miles away from that in what is essentially a road-going car with some FIA safety additions to it and a few performance parts. The idea is that this is an accessible way of going motor racing. There's a huge owner's manual that comes with each of the Dark Horse R racing cars that gives you all of the part numbers that are identical to the road cars, and whether that's mechanical parts or front fenders, wings, bonnets, etc., etc. And indeed Ford Racing say, look, we don't have to get involved. If you can get your parts from your local Blue Oval dealer, please do. Build yourself a rapport and a relationship with your local Blue Oval dealer. And let's be honest, if you're a local Ford dealer somewhere in the US, you'd want to have one of these sitting in your showroom, wouldn't you, with your logo on it somewhere?
It gets the customers in.
And you can turn around and say, and you can have one in a variety of nice metallic colours, including that lovely Ford Racing blue. It's an incredible initiative from Ford. Second season, as I mentioned, we had 40 cars at Le Mans for the Invitational. There's a Cup Series as well, which is even making it more affordable, where two drivers can share the weekend. One driver does the first day of racing, the second driver does the second day of racing, and then that's coming to Australia as well in 2026. First tranche of cars already en route down under, and there's a lot of excitement about that. The Aussies do love a nice V8, 6-speed manual gearbox, same as the road car, back axle, transmission, same as the road car. Nice baller titanium exhaust just to enhance that V8 growl, and of course the safety features for these racing cars. What a year we've had this year. And we wondered, didn't we, yesterday, Arjuna, how this particular circuit would race. It was very tight in terms of qualifying in the midfield, fractions of tenths of seconds, and so it is seeming now. Very difficult to pass here.
Yeah, I'll go back to the two incidents that we've seen. First, Paolo Salvatore, he spun by himself, just taking too much of the sausage curbs. And why is that an interesting point? Well, when a lot of the teams came and tested here, they didn't have sausage curves, and so some drivers did tell us that they drove as though the sausage curves were going to be there, and others clearly maybe did not, and so having to adapt to that. For the Marcus Vento, Will Lucas incident, we didn't really get a great look at that replay, but my initial instinct was that I think Marcus tried to reactively block Will Lucas. You know, we always say that if you're going to block, you need to do it proactively, not in response to the move. And I just wonder if that's one thing race control will be taking a look at. Obviously, much of the talk in the IMSA paddock in the last couple of weeks and race events has been a firmer stance from race control and contact. And we've even seen a handful of very talented drivers. I'm thinking of Dan Arrow in the most recent Michelin Pilot Challenge race that we had at Indy. Multiple penalties for blocking cars trying to make their moves, and so just on my first gut feel, I feel like Will Lucas tried to make the move that he had done a lap or so before, this time just with a little bit more stern defense, and Vento paying the price.
Coming down towards half distance, no pit stops here. If you're in the pits, you're in trouble. Something has gone wrong. Arjuna Kanabardi and me, John Hindhaugh, the penultimate race of the Ford Racing Mustang Challenge for 2025. The man who has bossed the championship. Bossed the championship. Did you see what I did there as a Mustang championship? I owned a Boss Mustang for about 12 days once, many years ago. And you should never have sold it. That is Robert Noyaker. It is the championship presentations tomorrow morning, and Robert will be taking a big trophy home. And he has had just an incredible season. His team, Robert Noaker Racing, winning 6 cars here this weekend. He was relaxed yesterday, wasn't he, when we spoke to him? Probably as relaxed as I've seen him at any stage through the season, including at the Le Mans Invitational, which wasn't for points, was for honour, certainly. But yesterday he was laughing, he was smiling, and really enjoying life.
And not as stressed about the fact that his team is running 6 cars this weekend, which is a Herculean effort for any team, especially a small team like Robert Noaker Racing. Sandy Sottulo covers off Andrew Akelante as
one of the extra cars.
It's a good point. Akelante in the car that actually was transported on an open-top trailer. So if you saw it hustling down the highway, yes, you saw a Dark Horse Mustang making its way down to the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah. Robert Noaker drives the standard truck that has 3 cars in. And he has one of the other team members drive another truck that can take 2 and some spares. And with the 6th car, Robert's dad was pressed into service with a pickup truck with an open car trailer on the back. And that's how that number 32, Andrew Akelante, Robert Noaker Racing machine, got to the circuit. I mentioned for him, we saw him he's on the back of that 3-car train. This is his first race at this level, but he's got some Mustang Dark Horse R experience behind him.
Yeah, he apparently was part of the development process for the car, and so I'm guessing tried it in a few different various forms, but maybe not the final form that we have now. And I think you mentioned this earlier, John, but one of the changes that, as you told me the story, was widely celebrated in the award ceremony last year was the announcement that Michelin were going to change from the effectively 19-inch street tires that they had at the time to an 18-inch racing compound, which we use right now, a larger sidewall, which has allowed for the cars to just be a lot more nimble. And he'll try this move once again. The chicane just proving to be a passing opportunity, and he's alongside as they get onto the power.
That was actually really nicely done. Round the outside in the middle of that chicane before they head back up onto the banking. Position made up by Andrew Akelante then. Sandy Sottulo, who started right at the sharp end, just fading a little bit. And at the front of the field, Noaker is pulled out to just hang on. I barely believe what I'm saying. A 15-second lead. This does not happen, not even for Robert. He was imperious in very difficult transitional, wet, dry, greasy conditions at the Circuit of the Americas. When he got his head around the conditions and the setup of the car was perfect, and pulled out into double digits at one stage. But this, I did not expect to see this at all. This is incredible. The tyre situation is, you're allowed to have, to bring along 2 sets of tyres that you used at the last meeting, 2 sets of slick Michelin racing tyres. Well, of course, because Circuit of the Americas was the last race and everyone was using wet weather tyres, everybody had 2 either lightly or brand new sets of Michelin slick tyres. So effectively they've had 5 sets of tyres here, brand new tyres, rather than the standard 3. So every session basically they've had a new set of tyres.
And they need them. We saw this after just 30 minutes of practice yesterday. The right front tyre takes a lot of wear, and I guess the surface of this track, not just what Sam Paley was talking to us yesterday about how it kind of feels as though it's kind of like the Circuit of the Americas, where you get the downforce cars and that causes these little micro ridges in the surface. But John, you were speculating that's because of some of the mechanical grip that the NASCAR stock cars very much put down onto the surface. You see those seams around the oval as well. It's a chewed up racetrack in that sort of sense. And so that was what Robert Noaker told me as far back as VIR, is he thought that managing your tires across a 45 minutes here was going to be a very difficult challenge. And the fact that he's got a 15-second advantage with only 14 laps left done in this race, I think that tells you a lot.
So Noaker, Paley, Anderson, Devon Anderson in third, then Will Lucas. There's 15 seconds between first and second, and then barely a couple of seconds between the next three cars. Alex Bashura behind Will Lucas to the tune of about 2.5 seconds, but still in control of that Dark Horse Legends battle for the championship. Came in to the green flag here with a scant 10-point lead, courtesy of his pole position in this race. Zachary Lee in second in Dark Horse Legends, down in 11th position, and that puts him a long way back from Alex Bashura, both in terms of cars to get by, but also in real estate as well. He is really not able to get up there, and Alex, I give Alex his due. Again, we spoke to him at the series administrative trailer yesterday, where we were doing our outside broadcast, and it seemed to me as though Alex Bashura was in the same sort of state of mind, or a similar one at least, as Robert Noyager, just taking each race as it comes, but for a different reason. Robert wants to sweep the season, Alex wants the big trophy tomorrow.
And I love how Alex phrased it, is, you know, he has a career as an oral surgeon that he loves. He loves his racing as well, so this is an opportunity for him to just relax a little bit from the day job and focus just on racing. I think right now Bashura's been given a lot of room as Alfonso Diaz sneaks up the inside of Zachary Lee. These two have been going at it for the last handful of laps. It's been costing them time, and this could end up being now, John, a fight for second in the championship effectively, although Diaz is going to need Lee to struggle a bit more, and the likes of Tate, Diedrichs and Neubauer to get between him and that chrome bullet.
Yeah, back to the silver bullet, the chrome car. That's third now in Dark Horse Legends. Overtake happened at turn number 7, and a big amount of Michelin rubber used in the process there, but the gap is opening up. Alfonso Diaz, another driver who's had a great year, great run out at Le Mans, and he enjoying himself at the moment. Meantime, side by side across the line, this one's not over. Down at the first corner, Zachary Lee goes back into that second spot in the Dark Horse Legends. This is such a tough circuit. Make one mistake, even a small one, it costs you momentum and it leaves you really vulnerable. Track quite wide in places, in others more like a straight track.
And I think what we saw there was the transition off the banking into the braking zone of that final chicane, and Diaz just maybe getting in a bit too deep, and very lucky that he didn't end up straight lining the chicane like we saw from Sandy Sottulo slightly earlier. It does seem as though he is a lot more confident around the lap than what we're seeing from Zachary Lee, and a moment of hesitation there as he almost gets alongside, working onto the power once again onto the banking. But yeah, these drivers are now a full 12 seconds back from Alex Bashura, so that's almost the same gap as Robert Nowaker has on the rest of the field. So again, it speaks highly to the speed that Alex Bashura has brought with him this weekend, as he continues to sit just in front of Sottulo and holding on to that track position with now just 20 minutes left to go. We're reaching that point, John, where these drivers only had about 30 minutes on track yesterday in one straight go. They also didn't have any safety cars or red flags, which is a pleasant surprise for them. But they will be starting to reach the point of the tire life, which they're headed into the unknown. They don't know how the car is going to respond from here, and they're going to have to be figuring that all out on the fly.
Best lap is still Robert Noyager's, 1:28.624, 29.9 for Alex Bashura in the Legends class. This race for second in Legends is 11th and 12th overall, and it is the closest race on the circuit at the moment. And another spin on that back straight chicane, and this time it is, no, I was about to say it has ended in a car that hasn't re-fired, but it has, and Stephen Weiger in the NV Autosport car has fired the blue and black car back up and is pointing in the right direction. Still are battling Dark Horse second and third placed drivers. And as you said, Arjuna, that could end up being for second in the championship.
I think right now Alfonso Diaz is probably brewing a couple of the incidents he's had in the last couple of races, because he was in front of Zachary Lee, go back to VIR. So I think it's going to be very interesting, especially once we get the starting grid for the second race, which was set by the second fastest lap time in qualifying, how that will fare out. We're watching as towards the line, it looks like Marcos Vento has just got it in front of Rafa Matos, and they've got Tate Britt not far behind them as well. So this is towards the tail end of the Dark Horse field as they fight just inside the top 10.
Arjuna Kankapati and me, John Hindhaugh from the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Tonight we race for the final time. I suspect that we will still be unable to tell you who our Dark Horse Legends champion is until the end of that race.
Mistake from Marcos Vento there as he tried to tip the car into turn 5. He got a whole heap of opposite lock dialed into the car, just about held on to it, but Matos slips back in front.
I said yesterday to Alfonso Diaz, what I like about this is, all right, if you take Robert Noy out of play here, because he has been otherworldly this season, there's always a battle somewhere to watch, Arjuna.
It's really interesting, given that these cars are so driver dependent. There's really not too much you're doing setup wise. There's small adjustments that, you know, the Robert Noakers have dialed into their own comfort level more than speed. But yeah, it's so fascinating seeing how things are played out. I mean, Sam Paley, he's another Ford Performance Junior driver, or rather Ford Racing Junior driver, 10 pounds in the jar there. But look at the gap between him and Robert Noaker. It just shows that understanding the car and being able to get the most out of it really does mean a lot. And you had mentioned this earlier, Sam Paley hasn't been in a position to test much this year, and in fact he only got to do his first test on this Michelin compound of tire earlier this week. So there's still a lot that he's, I think, discovering about the car, how he maybe wants to use these Michelin tires underneath him. And if we do see Sam back for next season, and maybe Robert's back as well, hopefully the two of them that slight bit closer, that could be a tussle at the top between two Ford Junior drivers.
Yeah, that's been a very successful program, hasn't it, this year, that Ford Racing Junior program, with drivers in this championship and going into other championships as well. We saw Robert Noaker and Cameron McLeod, who had that great battle in the Invitational second race at Le Mans. And by the way, if you want to go and see any of the races this year, go on to Ford Performance, Ford Racing, excuse me, got me at it now, Ford Racing YouTube, or onto the website there. All of the archive for this year's championship is there. And a cracking second race at Le Mans. And those two paired up last time out in Indianapolis for the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and were 2.5 miles short of a win, an outstanding win, as they were making their series debut together in a GT4 version of the Ford Mustang, literally led across with the white flag to go. But Robert had nothing left to give, and ultimately Robert and Cam finished in third position. But what a result that was. We've seen Jensen Altman go to drive a GT4 down at the Tailem Bend in Australia. Didn't have the race he wanted, but qualified well up. And I suspect we'll see more of that next year. This fascinating battling, the Dark Horse Legends for second place, still rages on.
It's quite remarkable how Zachary Lee is just placing the car exactly where Alfonso Diaz wants to try and make his moves. Turn 7 seems to be the place where Diaz is most comfortable in trying to roll the speed through, get back onto the power. But if Zachary Lee doesn't go too far out wide, the opportunity doesn't get presented to Diaz to really make his move. And all of this, they're about a second a lap slower than Alex Bashura with this fighting, and it's bringing in McKeever slightly further behind. But I think one thing that is key, John, you mentioned it right at the start, McKeever, joining us late in the season, per the series regulations, has been classified as a VIP entry, which means that he may stand on the podium if he gets out in front of Zachary Lee and Alfonso Diaz, but he won't take points away from them in the championship fight, which could be important if for any reason, and I'm not going to knock on wood as I say this, so there's no curse of the commentator, if Alex Bashura has issues in the second race, he would still be in a position to try and gain some points and hold on to the championship win.
So we tick down with 12.5 minutes to go in this first of 2 races today. Speed Saturday for the ponies, the Mustangs at a gallop, and Dark Horse Legends positions still up for grabs. With Dan McKeever coming on to the back of that battle for second and third. Really important to remember what Arjun has just said. Sporting regulation 11.7.4 means Dan will not score points. This is how they came in on our Ford Racing team update. Is actually a championship update for Dark Horse Legends. Bashura for Spark Performance 31.10. The 48, the silver car, on 31 even. And on 30.30, another 70 points back of the 15 car of Alfonso Diaz. That's how they came into this race.
And we'll do the math after the race to present the championship situations, but as it stands right now, it would be a 40-point advantage for Alex Bashura headed out of this race, and that's a slender advantage. That's the difference between second and fourth position as Zachary Lee straight lines the chicane.
Did a really good job to avoid those tyre bundles because they are significant and heavy, and there is Zachary Lee dropping from second to fourth, and the championship points will plummet from that. He missed his braking point on that downhill braking area that is a little bit bumpy, and I think actually, you know what, that's going to be frustrating, but that's a great piece of driving. He has an undamaged car and he's got 10 minutes to get back to that battle.
I think it really also shows how impressive it was from Diaz a couple of laps ago to not make that same mistake and go straight, and avoided losing even more time. It's such an easy mistake to make, the speeds that you exit off the banking. You know, you're always tempted to send it in there a little bit harder and deeper every lap that you go, but you are right, there's 10 minutes left on the clock, and all that Zachary Lee can do now is try and close back up to Diaz with the seconds ticking away.
So that, of course, despite the fact that McKeever's gone through, that with that rule invoked, that means he's only actually lost 1 place in terms of points. Which actually, he's not going to stand on the podium, but he would still get third place points.
And actually only means that he loses 20 more points to Bashura, so it's not as bad as it sounds. Yes, the gap is now going to be 60 points if they finish as they are, but these are small gaps in the IMSA WeatherTech and all the IMSA Championship. The way the points format works is unless you have a very bad day, you aren't going to be too far off the fight.
Yeah, but particularly on this circuit, and particularly down towards the first corner, and we saw it in the Craftsman truck race yesterday with a driver who had been bossing the championship all year and basically got punted into the wall in 1 and 2, and I think didn't complete the second lap, and absolutely grenading his playoff chances. This is the playoffs as far as the stock cars are concerned. All 3 disciplines of the National Series here. The Craftsman truck yesterday, today it's all about Xfinity, and tomorrow it will be the Cup cars on this circuit, the ROVAL. Great coup for Ford and Ford's Racing and Mustang to be here. The bright yellow number 87 has a problem. Rafa Matos. Now, was that a big lock-up? It must have been. How unusual is that on an ABS car? But again, comes back to what we were saying. Rafa Matos from Peterson Racing Group LLC. And that looked like right front Michelin being tortured there.
I think he locked both the right front and the left front. Here's another look at it. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is not necessarily one of the corners where the drivers were calling out the transition as being particularly bad, but you are still coming off some of that banking and trying to roll down to the inside where the circuit would be flat. So hopefully those Michelins aren't going to be just vibrating for the next... Oh, that does look like there's some vibration going on.
Yeah. He's going to see, if he's not careful, he's going to need the attention of Alex Bashira, the oral surgeon, in between races here, because it's going to rattle his fillings out. I'll tell you that now. Off the top of the brow, cars get really light and you're turning and braking at the same time, and things that racing cars don't like to do is turn and brake at the same time. Particularly difficult to brake when you're coming downhill as well. And there's another driver missing the braking point and then coming back on in the approved manner. This time it was Drew Neubart for NV Autosport. By the way, Robert Neuecker has stopped in the infield, got himself a Bojangles and a cup of coffee, and has continued and is still leading. It's not quite that bad, but he is absolutely doing his job here. He is one race away from sweeping the season here. 20 seconds, the gap between him and Sam Bailey, who's got a little bit of a lonely race now, as Devin Anderson for Tech Sport will be in third position. He's 4 seconds further back. Then Will Lucas, 5.3. What about Andrew Aquilante, though? Aquilante, a solid 5th position here in his first outing in this championship.
A good benchmark in front of him in Will Lucas, who has been running in that Mustang Cup, the entry level into Ford Racing's ladder system to get you up into the Mustang GT4, maybe the Mustang GT3 down the line. And after, I think it was 7 wins in a handful of races in the Mustang Cup for Will Lucas, now stepping up into Mustang Challenge, maybe for a full season next year. I think that's a solid sign for Aquilante to show up, learn from the Robert Neuecker team, have such a good resource as Robert to pick the brain of, to look at the data from, and to get up to speed. And he's actually teammates with Will Lucas this weekend, who last was running for Paley Motorsports at the Circuit of the Americas. So the 6 cars that Robert Neuecker Racing have brought, well, inside of the top 6 right now, they've got 4 of them. So that's a pretty good day.
Yeah. Well, and bear in mind, that's 4 Dark Horse cars. They've got Dan McKeever running 3rd in Legends at the moment, and Joe Deirdrick's running 6th in Legends. So in their respective classes, all of their 6 cars are in the top 6 in class.
And I'll go back to the Ford Racing Junior program for just a second here, because I think, again, looking at this 20-second gap between Robert Neuecker and Sam Paley, a lot of people will say, oh, maybe it's not that competitive. But let's not forget, the car that Robert Neuecker finished on the podium with at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Pilot Challenge race was the same car that Sam Paley, the previous time out, was paired with Nick Persing and got on the podium as well. The Ford Racing Junior program has got so many strong drivers, including Jensen Altzman, who we had the chance to catch up with yesterday. He's here spotting for a certain Zachary Lee.
Yeah, up on the grandstand. Still 4.5 minutes to go. And Robert Neuecker has trimmed his pace back considerably. He'll be feeling the performance that is left in those Michelin tyres, particularly the right front. Marking up a little bit, but I think he's done the job he needs to. Just using a bit of grass there as he's on the infield section now. Should be 2 laps at the end of this one, I reckon, as he really just has bossed the race. Bashira's done what he needs to do as well. Alex Bashira with Marcus Vento right in his wheel tracks at the moment, but that's not a Dark Horse legend. He's been brilliant. Really close to the wall there on the infield, and that is small margins. If he just clipped the wall there, he could have punctured a tyre, knocked out the tracking on the car or done some suspension damage. And what, was he an inch away from that, Les?
No, he has tucked the mirror in. He 100% made some contact with the wall there, and that is how hard he is pushing. As much as he's having fun, focused on the championship mindset, he's a race car driver at the end of the day. He doesn't know how to slow down. But John, look at the last lap time for Bashura. He did a 1:35.046. That's a full 5 seconds off of his fastest lap, and while we are seeing tire fall off, it's only around 2.2 seconds for Robert Noaker right now. So I wonder if Bashura has pushed too hard, and he's very fortunate that he's got this big gap back to the rest of his competitors right now.
Noaker did a 31.5 last time. He's done a 30.8 this time. And he's holding, in fact, he's just gone out to 22 seconds. It'll be a white flag next time by, I think. Just depends where Noaker is. But you're right to look at Alex Bashura. He doesn't have to go any further. He's got about 3 seconds, just under 3 seconds between himself and Alfonso Diaz.
He's just done another 1:35. I think he might, whether it's tires, whether it's something with the balance of the car, Bashura is falling off a cliff right now, and it's stacking up Vento, Prit, Matos. There's a set of cars in the mix here as well. This is a very, very close final couple of laps for the Dark Horse Legends leader.
And Diaz is flashing his lights in that train because he knows, he can see now he's championship leader and he's class leader, but he's got 3 Dark Horse cars between him. And that could be the saving grace for Bashura here. As the white flag flies, that means one more 2.3 miles or 3.73 kilometers around the circuit for the metallic blue and white number 13 of Robert Noaker Racing.
This might be the longest 2.3 miles that Alex Bashura has ever driven, as he looks a little bit more confident heading into that back straight and chicane for the penultimate time. He's built his gap back up to Marcus Vento.
Well, I think Marcus Vento has played a very honest game there. It's not his championship fight. I was wondering if there perhaps would be a little bit of frustration there, because that's not what Bashura would have needed. Somebody nerfing up the inside there to take an overall position and perhaps having him spin down the field. But Vento has been very respectful there to the championship leader in Dark Horse Legends.
And I think that also speaks to the camaraderie within this paddock right there. It's a close group of drivers. They aren't going to be at each other's throats. In some cases, a lot of them had to write essays, for lack of a better term, about what the Mustang meant to them in order to buy the car initially. So they are all here because they love Fords, they love racing, and they love trying to compete out on track.
It has been another Robert Noaker benefit as he comes to the checkered flag with just one more 45-minute race to go. 45 minutes of racing tonight stands between him and a completely perfect season. He's a bit Mary Poppins at the moment, practically perfect, but one more to go. What a season, what a race for Noaker. 22 seconds is the final tally there. And in the Dark Horse Legends, are we seeing the pendulum moving a little bit towards Spark Performance? Nathan Spark himself a champion in One Make Racing in IMSA down through the years. And now the Spark Performance name is on the edge of the Dark Horse Legends Championship for 2025. It's not over. They can't celebrate. They cannot be complacent, but this is more than a small step in the right direction for Bashura.
It will be 60 points by my math that he has as a buffer heading into that final 45 minutes of racing, but he's got a question to answer here. Why did he lose so much time in the final stages? I think that was 4 or 5 consecutive laps where he was either in the very high 34s or in the 35s. He can't afford for that same slip up to happen at the end of the next race, because if it's this close once again, championship implications, no one will be holding station.
Well, that's a very good point. It is all or nothing now for that DHL Dark Horse Legends Championship battle and the big trophy tomorrow at lunchtime. Robert Noack with another W in the column. His championship was sealed, subject to him actually losing points, which, whilst it's not unheard of, I've never seen it in IMSA competition. Not sure what he would have to do to have points taken away from him. But he is now going for that invincible season with his eponymous team. And another victory lane celebration for Robert Noack. We called it the steamroller because he has just absolutely ground the opposition down this year.
Again, what can we say? And his prize for winning last year's championship was a test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a GT4 car a handful of weeks ago. He took that momentum on the podium in his first GT4 Michelin Pilot Challenge race, and now only new heights from here.
Top 7 in the Dark Horse category. Your podium unofficially from Ford Racing. Noack, Paley and Devin Anderson, 3 different teams there. Noack Racing, Paley Motorsport and Tech Sport. Then 3 Robert Noack drivers in 4th, 5th and 6th, with the new boy, Andrew Akelante, in 4th position ahead of Will Lucas and Sandy Sotelo, who faded a little bit after a good qualifying session. Mark Advento makes up the top 7. Then it was Alex Bashira who wins Dark Horse Legends, with just 2 cars at the end between him and Alfonso Diaz, but the points remain the same. Tate Pritt and Rafa Matos. Alfonso and Zach Lee with Dan McKeever battling out for the top 3 positions. McKeever no points, but will stand on the Legends podium as the VIP driver. Beyond that, Colin Harrison and Tom Tate. Joe Dedricks finishing in a very good 6th position in Dark Horse Legends, ahead of Paolo Salvatore in 7th in the DHL. Drew Nobber had a little spin. Nick Smither and Stephen Viger also was off the circuit at one stage in the number 10 NV Autosport car. But we sent out 20 Mustang Dark Horse R's and we got 20 back. So that's good news for the crews down in the garages, because they have to get these cars back out for an evening. No, actually a night race. It is going to be a night race. I left last night at 7:15 and got a most sensational sunset shot. So by 8 o'clock tonight, after the Xfinity race, it'll be full dark, and we're looking forward to that.
I mean, what more could you hope for, right? A season finale under the lights, a championship to be settled, and again, rough math. We'll wait to see if there are race control interventions to talk about, but Alex Bashura, a 60-point advantage over Zachary Lee. He has 110 points back to Alfonso Diaz. He's in the driver's seat, but some worries about tyre management maybe headed into the second 45 minutes of the day.
It was Arjuna Kankapati and me, John Hindhaugh, in the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. And what a spectacle, and what a race. Quick start, and Robert Noack not caught out by the green. Disappeared at the distance. Paolo Salvatore with a problem early on. He fought back up to 17th position. The battle was in the Dark Horse Legends between Zachary Lee and Alfonso Diaz. Diaz came through into 2nd place. We'll do it again tonight under the lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway on the ROVAL. From us here at the Ford Racing Global Broadcast Centre. Bye for now.